to the Ageless Woman Podcast, where modern science meets timeless self-care for limitless vitality. I'm Dr. Cindy Groh, a board-certified nurse practitioner and the founder of My Venus Club. This is a space for women who are ready to understand what's actually happening in their bodies and finally get real answers. If you've been told your labs are normal, that this is just a part of aging, or that you just need to try harder, and if you've sat through those 15-minute appointments left with just another prescription to manage symptoms, or maybe feel like you've lost a part of yourself, you're in the right place. Before we begin, just a quick note. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to replace personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider regarding your individual health needs. Here we go deeper. We connect the dots between your hormones, your metabolism, your genetics, and your lifestyle, so you can stop guessing and start feeling like yourself again. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Ageless Woman Podcast. I'm Dr. Cindy Groh, nurse practitioner and founder of My Venus Club, and I'm so excited for today's conversation because this is one that goes straight to the heart of what so many women are craving for right now. Clarity. Not just a prettier planner or a to-do list or just pushing through a pep talk, but real clarity. The kind that helps you pause long enough to hear yourself again. Because so many women are living in this constant state of doing. We're caring, we're working, managing, planning, fixing, showing up for everyone else, and somewhere along the way, we can lose the sound of our own voice. And here, matters so much more in women's health because at My Venus Club, we talk about a lot of hormones, metabolism, cellular health, inflammation. But the truth is, none of those exist in isolation. The mind and body are always in conversation with one another. Your stress, your thoughts, your emotional load, boundaries, your sense of purpose, your sleep, how you're sleeping, your nervous system, your cells, they're all connected. So when we talk about optimal vitality, we cannot only talk about labs. We have to talk about what and how a woman is living her life, what load she's carrying, what she believes about herself, and whether she feels connected to who she truly is. Because long-term health is not about avoiding disease. It's not about creating a life where the body is doing everything by themselves, but it's about creating that connection with mind, body, nervous system, hormones, and cells to really support what your body needs to thrive. And today's guest is someone who helps women really reconnect with that deeper part of themselves. I want to introduce Tammie Holland Vinson. She's spent more than 30 years helping others experience a deeper sense of health and well-being. With a background in healthcare and a passion for whole person wellness, Tammie understands something I believe deeply. True wellness is not only about symptoms or diagnoses, it's also about how we think, how we feel, how we live, and whether we feel connected to who we really are. Her passion for whole person wellness began early, inspired by her father, a physician and early pioneer in functional medicine. Tammie is a graduate of the University of Florida, a certified Clarity Catalyst trainer, a mother, wife, mentor, and someone who has made it her mission to help others live with more purpose, confidence, and intention. The Clarity Catalyst is a transformational program developed from a Stanford University master degree framework. It helps people reconnect with intuition, discover their purpose, access their creativity, and create more intentional, fulfilling lives. And honestly, I can't think of a better conversation for women who feel stuck, overwhelmed, disconnected, or ready to do something new and create this chapter in their life where they know they're going to begin for something great. So Tammie, I welcome you. I'm so grateful to have you here.
Thank you, Cindy. I love your podcast, and I'm just honored to be here. I've always been a big fan of yours, so thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. So before we dive right in, I love for women to really get to know you. You have such a beautiful background in healthcare, wellness, and functional medicine. So tell us a little bit how your story started, what is Clarity Catalyst, and how did you first discover it?
So like you mentioned, the Clarity Catalyst program is a off branch from Stanford University, their master's degree program. But what I found so intriguing about the program is that once it was one of the most successful programs ever offered at Stanford. But what was really interesting, it started in 1979. So after the program became one of the most successful programs there, and then they branched off and offered it to the widows of 911 tragedy that we had.
Oh my goodness.
So they offered it to these women, and these women just popped. They became entrepreneurs, they became artists, they became business owners. They really learned how to go on and live their lives. So when I'm learning about this, I'm like, gosh, I want some of that. I want to learn about that. So I was on a women's retreat in the Grand Canyon, and Jennifer Grace, who is the lead trainer for Clarity Catalyst, she's taught the class for over 18 years, and I had the pleasure of sitting next to her for dinner. And we're sitting next to each other at dinner, and she asked me the question, like, so what do you do? And I told her what I did, that I was in medical sales. Well, do you love it? And I was like, yeah, I actually do love it. She said, well, do you want to do it forever? And I was like, I don't know if I want to do it forever. So then she asked me, what are your next steps? And I kind of just sat there, and I'm like, I had some ideas in my mind, because I think we all have that next step, because I'm at that age where I could retire. But I knew I really didn't want to. It just wasn't sitting well with me. And so then she said, why don't you take my class? Why don't you take Clarity Catalyst? I think it'll give you some true clarity. And that's how I got into this class.
Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful story.
Yes.
How interesting. You
Yes.
sat right next to her.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So how did you experience that whole class, that whole, it was the 8-week course? When you experienced that, what did you feel? What did you get out of that? How did it transform your thinking?
So when I took the class, there was 31 people in the class. I did not know a single person. Most of the people in there were health coaches. They were life coaches. I was the only one that was not. But I was in the functional medicine field. So I felt like I kind of somewhat fit in. But gosh, what I learned from the class, if I could say the biggest takeaway, was just true clarity about what I want my next steps to be. I became so crystal clear. It pushed me so far out of my comfort zone on some areas, but that's when we really grow, is when we get outside of that comfort zone. But I could say, honestly, I left with clarity that I'm here. That's why I'm here now.
That's an incredible story.
Yes.
And I love that, because I think so many women hear clarity and think, that sounds nice, but I don't even have time to think because we're so busy. But when women feel overwhelmed and exhausted and they don't know where to go, that's what they really need to do, is connect with themselves to get that kind of clarity that they need.
Correct.
And I think we're all missing that connection. We don't take the time to slow down and think. We're in this chronic state of stress, and it affects our sleep. It affects how we're thinking. It affects how we interact in our relationships, whether it's personal or work or anything like that. I know one of the things they talk about in Clarity Catalyst, it's not just emotions, but that connects you to your physical being. So if someone's always in survival mode, they can't hear what their mind is saying and what their intuition, so to speak, are telling them. So when we move and think about Clarity Catalyst, and they talk about intuition and how that's important to connect and hear yourself, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so often we don't listen to our intuition because we have this other voice inside of our head telling us that we're too old, it's too late, all the things. You should have done more, you should have got more education. But instead, just listen to that intuition that's saying, yes, I can do this, and not being afraid, and just to be able to go forward. That's been the biggest thing. I think people just don't listen to that.
They don't. And it's hard to. There's so many roadblocks, or we hear negativity, or we read negativity now with social media. That's a big influence on so many people, taking stock in what other people are telling them on social media. And people can be cruel.
Oh, very cruel.
Social media. I'm shocked at some of the things people can say to each other. So let's switch gears and move a little bit and talk about the Clarity Catalyst movement with creativity. And I think that word can really make people nervous at times, because so many adults say, as myself at times, I'm not creative. But I love that this program looks at creativity in a much broader way. When people hear the word creativity, they think of artists, musicians, writers. How does Clarity Catalyst define creativity and help people get in touch with their own creativity?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one thing that I thought when I first took the class too. I thought, gosh, I'm not creative. You asked me to draw a picture on a piece of paper, I'm not going to be a good artist. But if you look at, we're all, and that's one thing they really taught, teach a lot in the class, is we're all creative. We have to be creative to make a good decision. We have to be creative with our health. We have to be creative in problem solving. There's so many ways to be creative. I brought up an instance in my class. I had an opportunity to move to Miami for a job, and I was going to have to move there by myself, but I was following my dream, my career dream. So I had to be creative in the process. It's called the hero's journey. And just taking the steps along the way, but coming up with a creative solution to the problem, or how I was going to move forward, if I was going to move to Miami or not. So yeah, we can use creativity in the way we deal with everything in our life daily.
That's a great story.
Yes.
Great story. And I think that kind of moves into people judging themselves, judging
Yes.
and questioning their own creativity.
Yes.
And I also love how Clarity Catalyst talks about that, and talks about how people have to learn how to show up in everyday life and not judge themselves, gives themselves a break, love themselves for who they are.
Right.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I think we all do that. We all judge ourselves, but that's one thing that we talk about. There's the voice of judgment and there's the voice of wisdom. The voice of judgment talks very loud and says sometimes not the nicest things to us.
Yes.
And sometimes we believe that that's the voice of truth, but that's not really the voice of truth. We have to listen to the voice of wisdom. It's much softer, it's wiser, but we have to take time to really listen.
Listen to ourselves.
Yes.
So important. I think every woman listening knows that voice, the voice that says, who do you think you are? You're too old, you're too late, you're going to fail, you don't have time,
Right.
You're not young enough, you're not old enough.
Right.
And the sad part is so many women think that voice is wisdom, but like you said, it's not.
No,
it's not
it's
wisdom. Can you describe a little bit more about what's the difference between the voice of judgment and wisdom, like you just told us, and how do we begin to really understand that inner voice of true wisdom and not be such a critic of ourselves?
So first off, you have to identify the voices. You have to know when they're speaking to you. In the class, we actually name them.
Oh, I like that.
So we have, I think mine was, I can't remember what it was. It was demanding Christine or something like that, or judging Justine. But just to know that when that's the voice of judgment is talking to you, like, no, I'm not listening to you right now. I'm going to listen to my voice of wisdom, because simply that voice of wisdom is right. It's the judgment that holds us back. And
very true.
I think women, because we try to do everything, we listen to that one more. And we need to start listening to our voice of wisdom and be aware.
That's such good advice. Yes. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about mindfulness, because I think this is one of those words people hear all the time, but they may not really understand what it means to be mindful daily. Most women are multitasking from 1 minute to the next, making coffee, answering texts, thinking about dinner, laundry, kids, family, work, whatever's going on. And then we wonder why we feel so scatterbrained all the time. In Clarity Catalyst, what does the be here now really mean? And how can women really embrace that and capture that?
So that's one of the toughest ones to really put into practice in your life once you just start doing it. But it really does mean be present where you are. Instead of, how often do you have, I know when my kids were younger, I was juggling a career, I was a single mom, and I'm emailing while they're talking to me, I'm texting, I'm trying to do a project, I'm trying to get something else done, and I'm not really present while they're talking to me. And that's the most important thing in any type of relationship, is to be present when that person is speaking to you. So mindfulness is And it's healthier for you too.
Yes.
Because then you're not multitasking. You're not trying to do one thing and then do another as well.
You're quieting your mind,
Yes.
so to speak, and you feel better. Because
Yes.
if you're with that person, then you're making that connection too. If you can explain to our audience, how does mindfulness help reduce their stress and improve their relationships, which we just kind of rolled into that a little bit.
So I think that with relationships, when we have a whole section on relationships in the Clarity Catalyst course, but that's one of we kind of tie a tool and then a problem or a situation together. And relationships and mindfulness go beautifully together, because we're not typically, we are especially guilty of this with our loved ones. Mm-hmm. We are constantly doing something else while they're with us. Yes. Instead of just truly being present. I remember talking in the class that we had, I remember talking and just saying, I'm sure we've all had times when we've been in a conversation with someone and they're truly engaged. They're asking you questions. You can tell they're interested in what you're saying, and how refreshing that conversation. You leave and your heart is just full.
Yes.
And there's nothing any better than having a full heart, and you leave like, wow, they genuinely cared about me. And quite honestly, they're probably going to reciprocate the same back to you. If you just listen to them, they're probably going to do the same thing back to you. Yes. But we just don't do it.
No, we're always mental multitasking. Mm-hmm. And that's the multitasking other people don't see, but it's going on. And there's so much going on in the brain. It's like this static noise constantly. And I know I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of mental multitasking all the time. But it's so important, because I think having that glorified multitasking, especially for women, we call it productivity, but it's really not. It's not productive to do that. And it doesn't help improve or optimize our health span, because what our mind is thinking flows over into our physical health and well-being.
That's correct.
Because every time we help the body come out of urgency or stress, and we support it properly, we're supporting our mind and our body together. I think that's so important. Vitality. Can you speak to a little bit of how having clarity around your mind affects your whole vitality in your body?
God, just think about it. If you are present and you are mindful, how much more productive you are.
So true.
That's just, you're just, instead of trying to do so many things and you're really giving a little bit to each, if you just do one big thing, it can be so much more gratifying, not only to you, but to the other person that you could potentially be with as well.
Yes, so important. Before we take a quick break, can you give our audience maybe one quick tip that they could do in the morning, maybe to kind of set their day for them?
So one thing that we did in the class that we're talking about mindfulness is we had everybody set their alarm 3 different times a day. So they set their alarm for 7 o'clock, noon, and then in the evening. And when the alarm went off, and it was very telling for me, where are you? Are you in the past? Are you in the present? Or are you in the future?
Oh, I love that.
So, and when you're not in the present, which is where peace lives, then you're not being mindful. So it's a really eye-opening experience, because I think most of us live on the outside of being present.
In the past or in the future, thinking about what happened or what is going to happen.
Right.
That is such a great piece
of
advice.
So that definitely affects vitality.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Tammie and I are going to talk about powerful questions surrounding purpose and why so many women already know what they need. They just need the space to hear it in their own mind. So we'll be back in just a minute.
This episode is brought to you by My Venus Club. Here's something most doctors won't tell you. The tired, foggy, not yourself feeling so many women write off as aging, it's not just hormones. It starts at the cellular level. And it's also silently raising your risk for chronic disease. But that doesn't need to be your story. My Venus Club was built to change that story. We combine precision medicine and advanced diagnostics to optimize your hormones, rebuild your cellular health from the inside out, and restore the vitality you deserve to feel every single day. And girls, the most beautiful, vibrant version of you is just getting started. Memberships are now open. Apply at myvenusclub.com. That's myvenusclub.com.
Welcome back to the Ageless Woman Podcast. I'm here with Tammie Holland Vinson, and we're talking about clarity catalyst, intuition, purpose, connecting with yourself, and parts of what a woman needs to connect with are often buried under stress, responsibility, and the noise of everyday life. One of the parts we're going to talk about, and one of the things that really stood out to me in Clarity Catalyst, was talking about what we need to do for personal growth. So we talked a little bit about intuition, we talked about a little bit about creativity and mindfulness. So women that are out there listening, what is something that they can do to really start to work on personal growth? Where do they start with that?
So I think that one of the things that you want to start doing is start asking some powerful questions for yourself. So we don't typically do that. We just kind of go along with the flow, but instead of asking some really powerful questions, because those will open doors. And that'll help determine the quality of your life. So instead of saying, why does this keep happening to me? Or maybe just say, gosh, what can I learn from this? Okay. Instead of feeling like you're a victim, like how can I empower myself from this situation? But I think that as from what I've seen, just being a woman and other women, even when I was taking the class, I found other women in the class doing the same thing. Just start asking some questions. What do I want my next step to be? What is important to me? What lights me up? What are things what are things that I can do? Like when I'm learning this class, I could be learning it for 6-7 hours and time just goes by. And that's when you know that you're doing something that you love. Right. But you have to really ask those powerful questions of yourself and not be afraid of the answers.
Right. And be honest with yourself of those answers. Right. I love that. So what does you always know mean in Clarity Catalyst? So I love that.
We have a term, and we actually call it yak. You always know. So it goes back to intuition. It's those burning questions that we have to ask ourselves that we already know the answer, but we just aren't ready to pull the trigger yet. Perfect example, my daughter had called me when I was taking this class, and she wanted me to go to Scotland with her. And this was 6 days prior to departure. I had no passport. I had to make arrangements for work 6 days prior. I just had all these, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And so I'm on the phone talking to her. She goes, Mom, what do you think? And I said, yes. So it's either a yes or a no answer, because we have to ask that question. Do I want to go? Do I not want to go? And it turned out I had to drive to Miami, get a passport. But I was just so excited about it. But I asked that powerful question to myself, is this a yes or a no? And it became
I
yes.
love that.
Yes. Yeah.
How quickly did you answer yes?
I answered yes within about a minute.
I love that.
And it'll be a trip neither one of us will ever forget.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, lifelong memories. Yes. And you can't replace that.
No.
Oh my goodness. And I love that phrase, you always know, because I think that's women feel that deep down inside, and they know, and sometimes even those negative feelings, they know that something is off. Maybe they know they're a little out of alignment or something doesn't feel right, but they ignore themselves. And I think sometimes those voices get louder, and then expectations get louder. Then sometimes people pleasing gets loud, and they forget to connect back and sometimes make it about themselves. Right.
And that's what women don't do. We don't make it about ourselves. We're used to doing that.
Yes. And it needs to. It's so important. Women I see them, I talk to them, and they're so disconnected for themselves sometimes. They become disconnected, not just from their mind, but their body. And they override symptoms, they ignore fatigue, they normalize stress. We're all guilty of normalizing stress and silencing our own needs.
Right.
I mean, we do it so often.
And we've mastered it.
We have mastered it. We really have mastered it. And over time, that disconnection, it affects their mind and their body. So overall, their health, their resilience, their wellness. And it's something that we need to focus on. It's a part of health. It's a part of health. So it's such a big topic, purpose, vision, what women are going to do, what's their next chapter look like. I had a patient recently said something to me, and it had so much wisdom, and I shared it with Stephanie Venn Watson in a previous podcast, but I always think about this patient. She was in her 80s, and she was so excited about something she was getting ready to do in her life in her 80s. And she talked about she's repurposing herself. And I just loved that, the way she talked about repurposing herself. And she was so excited about this next era in her life in her 80s.
I love that. You told me that story a few days ago. I just love that story because I can resonate with that. I totally get it.
Yeah. And so she was like, I've got a new purpose. I'm repurposing myself. And I love that. I just thought how that one little statement had so much wisdom in it. So,
but she obviously listened to what was important to her and knew that she had to repurpose herself. She wasn't going to be happy just going off in the sunset.
Yes, so to speak. Yes.
Right.
And I think many women struggle with finding purpose. And so for our listeners out there, what kind of advice can you give them on where they would start to finding their purpose or their repurpose? What can we tell them to help them?
So I think a misconception about purpose is it's not something you have to go out and find. It's already in you. You just have to figure out what it is. And that's when the powerful questions comes in. That's when the voice of wisdom comes in. But I encourage people to stop asking, what should I do? And maybe start asking, what am I really good at? What gives me joy? And then you'll find your purpose. So for like this lady that is repurposing herself, what does she love to do? I mean, what is it? And that's what she should do.
Yes.
But it takes some question.
And for this lady, she loves gardening and writing.
Right.
And spending time with her family.
Yes. So find a way to do that.
Yes.
And maybe she doesn't have to make a living, but find a way to have that be part of her life.
Yes.
And maybe she shares that with other women.
Absolutely. Yes. And can you also tell us a little bit, I think people get confused and think of purpose as a career, the difference between career and purpose. Sometimes they're one and the same, but oftentimes they're not.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a career is more what you do. And purpose is why you do it. So if I think about like my career, I've spent almost my entire career in medical sales. And if I go back and I look at it, it's because I love to help people. I love to connect dots. I love to find something that's going to help this one patient or help this doctor resolve an issue with a patient. That's my purpose. So whether I'm teaching a Clarity Catalyst course, whether I'm talking to a friend, having a coffee, or I'm out doing medical sales, my purpose is really to inspire, to help people, to connect the dots, where maybe my career is something else, but I'm changing the lab coat per se, but I'm still doing this. My purpose is still the same.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. That was a great explanation. Yeah. I think that's going to help a lot of people. It helped me. I never thought about it that way until you just said that.
I didn't either until I took the class, and I was like, that's what I've been doing my whole life. And that's what makes a beautiful transition or addition to what I'm currently doing, because I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still fulfilling that joy, that need, or what I'm good at.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Can you also tell us a little bit? I know Clarity Catalyst talks about curiosity and a person's curiosity about themselves or about something they're interested in. How does curiosity and purpose work together?
So curiosity really is the doorway to purpose. So if you're curious, you're going to start asking questions. I think what happens is we stop asking questions because we think, I'm too old to ask questions. I should have asked these questions a long time ago. What's the point? But it really does open doors for you. But we have to remain curious. And I think we think as we've gotten older, like, I don't need to be curious anymore. I already know everything. No, there's so much to learn. There's so much out there, and there's just so many different options for you.
I love that. That's such a beautiful reframe, because purpose can feel like this huge, giant intimidating thing that people think about or women approach, like we're supposed to discover one grand mission, and that's not the case all the time. It doesn't have to be that. Purpose can be something smaller. It can be something that we're just curious about, something that piques our interest, that, like you said, lights you up, brings you joy. And
if I think about anything that's been significant in my life, it started with curiosity. I mean, just think about it. I mean, look at how you approached your career. It just, I got curious. What if? Yes. And asking that what if, and then, okay, where does that lead me?
Yeah, I was one of those kids that was always asking why, what, why.
Yes.
And when women begin asking those questions, those big questions, those powerful questions, that's when something's going to shift inside them. And being conscious to know that they're asking those questions and there's a purpose for those questions, it's giving them clarity. I think that's important. And then sometimes the body gets the new message and the mind opens up, but sometimes it doesn't. So I think we need to be more in tune and hear what we're saying and kind of block out that static noise that's out there that's blocking that all the time.
Right. That's maybe could be blocking our curiosity.
Yes.
There's so many things that can block that, but just stay open and remain curious.
Yes. I think one of them is time and stress.
Definitely.
We're always multitasking, mental multitask, physical multitask, everything. So that brings us to a really good topic, talking about time and stress, because this is really where I think every woman listening is going to really lean in, because that applies to all of us. We're always under time crunches. We're always under stress. And I always feel like I don't have enough time. I'm behind. I've got too much going on. Sometimes I can't keep up. And that feeling alone can keep the nervous system under constant stress. And I'm always talking to my patients. I'm talking about stress and the impact it has on your life. It's in your health and well-being. So why do you believe so many people have an unhealthy relationship with time? And me personally, I know I have to work on that.
Yeah, I think we kind of wear busyness as like a badge of honor. Especially as women, we just like, I've been so busy today, and we just don't stop, and then we're just exhausted when we go to bed. When we actually go to bed, we can't sleep because our mind's still going. So one of the lessons that we talk about in Clarity Catalyst is I have all the time in the world. And I really struggled with that concept because I don't think I have all the time in the world. But it really is, it's just like we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but it's what do you allot your time to? And what is most important to you during that day, so you don't feel like I have to get everything done on my to-do list. What is the most significant thing that I can get done today? And then prioritizing that instead of feeling, oh my gosh, it's just that rush feeling, and it's not healthy. So it leads to, where you're feeling more scarcity, and that's not healthy.
No, it's not. So that's a great technique. Is there anything else that you could tell a woman to really help her come through or manage and better deal with this immediate stress that she feels overwhelmed with those time crunches that we have?
Yeah, so whenever I catch myself, since I've taken this course, whenever I catch myself, I'll just say, and I hear myself, gosh, I don't have enough time. And then I ask myself, am I spending my time on what really matters most? And if I know that it's just checking a box on my to-do list, that doesn't really matter to make this day today, make it important. So I think that's something that someone just wants to have a quick check-in. And then also when you have all these things on your to-do list, there's certain things that require action. There's some that require clarity, and some that require a new attitude. So like clarity. So like when I say action. So an action would be, my son's in the emergency room. What am I going to do? You're going to go to the emergency room.
Right.
If you need clarity, okay, I have a possible job opportunity in Miami. What am I going to do? I need to get some clarity on what would a move look like? What is that going to look like for my family? What's that going to look like for me? And then there's also just one that's more just a new attitude. Maybe you've lost a loved one. You can't do anything about it, but it requires a new attitude. So just looking at how can I do that and trying to fit that into my day instead of everything else you have going on.
I love that. That's so important, because focus on the things that you can change, not the things you have no influence on or you can't change.
That's correct.
And a lot of times we dwell on those things that we cannot change at all, like especially the loss of a loved one. That's really good advice. It's so important. So if a woman was to complete Clarity Catalyst, or what you see when women are completing the program, what type of shift did you see in yourself, and what type of shift do you see in women that complete the program for Clarity Catalyst?
So for me, it was clarity. I definitely had more clarity.
Sense,
yes. And then also it was realizing how much the voice of judgment was keeping me from doing what I wanted to do, what I knew would make me happy, what kind of lit me up. Those were the biggest things for me. But I see I just got finished teaching a class, and it was how often are they bringing the past into the present, and it was still affecting their daily lives. That was a big one. And then we talk about judgment, either judgment of yourself or judgment of others. And that was another big topic, not being so critical of yourself. And a lot of times we find ourselves being critical of others.
Yes.
And how that affects just our mental capacity. Because if we're so judgmental, that's not healthy for anybody.
It's not. And oftentimes we may be judging something that we've done ourselves or are doing ourselves, but yet we're judging or criticizing another person for doing that same thing because it maybe is causing us frustration or affecting our time, or it's just inconvenient for us right now.
Right.
And that's a great way to think like that.
Yeah, we talked about, like, say, for example, a great example would be, if someone cuts you off on the highway. I mean, how often I've probably cut people off on the highway too, and then we get mad at them.
Absolutely.
It's like, just like me, I could do that. Or the other day I was trying to send out a package, and this one lady, she was taking up so much time, and the person behind the counter was being so kind with her. And instead of me being irritated, I'm like, you know what? She deserves that. Yeah. Instead of being frustrated, because I would want the same.
Right.
I would want the same
time and attention.
The same time, right.
Yeah. No, that's great. I've had to explain that a couple times to patients too. Maybe I have an appointment and one of my appointments run over, and so I get a little behind to start with the next patient, and I just in a very kind way let them know that I was just that person before them. I just had to take extra time with them. It was something that they needed, and I'm going to extend that same time for them because they're important as well. And now I'm giving them my time. So, but yes, and I mean, I'm guilty of doing those things too.
We're human.
We are
but
human.
I think it's just that moment where you just look in and go, okay, why? This isn't serving me.
It's
so
not.
So then you just ask the question, another powerful question, why? And say, and recognize it when it does happen.
So what would you say to a woman who feels stuck and doesn't know what her next chapter looks like? What could you say to just help her to maybe start to take those steps that she needs to take?
So I think that I've been there, so I can say she's not alone.
She's definitely not alone.
And just to remind someone that they don't have to, go up the entire staircase in one day. They can take one step. So just take one step. And okay, so what does that feel like? Okay, so now I've made that one step, and then what's the next step? What's the next step? And I think the biggest thing is just you're not alone. And it can change. You can get clarity. You can find your purpose. You can find your joy. But it takes asking yourself some questions and look at what's holding you back.
I love that.
Yeah.
So when you're teaching a class, what are the most excited things that your participants discover and that you see them discover about themselves? Like what are you seeing, and what do they tell you?
Since I just finished a class, they discovered their creativity. They discovered their courage. Discovered they've got great wisdom just residing right inside of themselves. But this program doesn't give you all the things. It just teaches you how to tap in to what's there.
Okay, I like that. And if there was one thing that you hope listeners remember today, what would that be?
So I would say just be curious, continue to be curious, lead your life with courage, trust yourself. And if you're searching for something, it's out there. You just have to make a choice and do it one intentional choice at a time.
Tammie, this has been such a beautiful conversation. I love that it reminds women that wellness is not about doing more. Sometimes wellness begins with just listening more, listening to your body, your intuition, your inner wisdom. Because so many women are not lost, they're simply buried under expectations, responsibilities, the stress of everyday life. And clarity really gives us a way back to purpose, to our confidence, our creativity, and who we truly are. And this is all part of optimal vitality and health span, because true health is integrated. With that, I'm so excited to share that Tammie and I will be continuing this conversation live with a roundtable discussion and seminar called How to Unlock Your Potential and Connect with Your Authentic Self. This will be held at Barons Creek Vineyard, downtown Ocala on Sunday, July 12th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It'll be an intimate and meaningful conversation for women who are ready to get unstuck, reconnect with themselves, and step into the next chapter with more clarity and confidence. Seating is limited, and the first 10 women who message me at My Venus Club on Instagram or Facebook will secure their seat. And if you're unable to attend live, you can watch us live on YouTube. Tammie, it's been such a pleasure. Anything you want to tell our listeners before closing? And I can't wait to see you in July. We're going to have so much fun.
I can't wait either. It is a wonderful class, and I'm just so honored to be working with Cindy, because I know she truly understands the mind-body medicine, how beautifully they connect.
Thank you.
So
I know I'm so excited that we're doing this together. So in the next episode of Ageless Woman, we're going to go to a topic every woman deserves to understand more clearly: PMS, PMDD, and birth control. What women need to know before making a decision. We're going to talk about the difference between PMS and PMDD, why symptoms are so often dismissed, and how birth control may help some women while creating challenges for others, and what women really need to know so they can make informed, confident decisions about their bodies. Because when it comes down to your health, you should never feel rushed or dismissed or handed a one-size-fits-all answer. So thank you so much for joining us today, ladies. And remember, your next chapter doesn't have to begin with having all the answers. Sometimes it begins with asking better questions. Thank you for being here today, Tammie. It's been such an empowering conversation. I so appreciate you. And until next time, keep building your foundations, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for being here with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share it with someone who may need to hear it also. And if you're ready to start understanding your body on a deeper level and getting the clarity you deserve, you can learn more about My Venus Club at myvenusclub.com. We offer a limited number of memberships for women who are ready to take a more personalized, in-depth approach to their health. So apply for a membership. There's no pressure, just an opportunity to start a different kind of conversation, one that focuses on you, your body, and what you truly need. Because once you understand your body, everything changes. I'll see you in the next episode.